Chapter 5. Kai. I've rehearsed this reunion, repeated practiced words over and over in my mind. It's this conversation that has occupied my racing thoughts, forced my feet to tread the familiar path to his study, the one that was our father's before it belonged to the brother now resembling him. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he is nothing like the man I loathed. I'm not sure what to think after Kit's dooming declaration in the throne room. And that is exactly why I find myself standing before that familiar wooden door. Answers. After 3 raps of my knuckle, I'm turning the handle and stepping into the room. The small space is stuffy, like that cellar where the enforcer reunited with his silver sailor. My gaze skims over the surrounding study. These 4 walls trapping so much of my past within. Embers endure a slow death at the bottom of the hearth, glowing faintly with the final remnants of warmth. 3 plush chairs face the fireplace, one leather and worn and stealing my attention for a moment too long. I clear my throat before striding towards the large desk at the center of the room. Kit's head is bowed, eyes tracing the parchment clutched between his fingers. It's only when I'm looming over him that his head lifts. "Hello, brother?" I blink at the endearment in his voice. It sounds so foreign coming from the man I left to find our father's murderer. But this isn't that broken, crazed man the kingdom gossiped about. This is something else entirely. "Hello, Kit." I return slowly. "You seem, well?" He chuckles slightly, setting his papers aside. "I've definitely felt far worse. You would know." The look he wears now is familiar, like a hint of the grin he used to give me so often. "I'm sorry for being so distant before you left. But I've grieved. I feel lighter, if that makes any sense." A shake of his head, blonde hair rippling. "I've learned a lot in these past few weeks." I hum softly, unsure what it is I'm supposed to say. After a beat of silence, I settle with, "I'm glad you're feeling better. More like myself," he adds with a small smile. "Oh, and this." He rifles through the assortment of parchment in search of something. "This belongs to you." He sets that something on the only sliver of wood peeking out from beneath the blanket of paper. I stare at my enforcer's ring and the large crest atop it. 2 lions frame a bannered A, our family seal and sign of strength. I wish that is all I see when looking at it. No, I see every horrific thing I and all the enforcers before me have done in the name of that crest. Every drop of blood spilled to secure our family's power. Every order obeyed because that banner has me bound for life. But I slide it onto my finger anyway, feel the bite of cold steel against my skin. I flex my hand. Decades of death are wrapped into the band clutching my skin, and I don't dare to even flinch. "So," I mutter softly, eyes never straying from the ring, "I earned it back." He shrugs slightly. "You brought her to me, didn't you?" "I did. And I regret it more than anything." "I've got to hand it to you, Kai." He slowly leans back in the chair, mimicking yet another one of Father's movements. "I wasn't sure she would make it back here." Reading between the lines is rather difficult when they are blurred. I'm no longer sure if it is my brother speaking, or the king he's become. "And you were worried that would be my doing," I say smoothly, voicing the words he avoids. His smile is tinged with an amused sort of sadness. "I thought you might let her go." Why didn't you tell me of your plan with her? The question flies from my mouth, far harsher than I'd rehearsed in my mind. He blinks at me, bewildered for a moment before his newfound composure returns. I honestly wasn't sure what to do with her myself. Not until I started listening to Callum's counsel. Found the records with Father's letter. So Callum told you to marry her. My voice is low, lethal. Better yet, why the hell are you listening to him in the first place? Because he opened my eyes to so many things, Kit fires back. Suddenly, I was thrown into the role of king, ridden with grief and anger. And when Callum told me his story, what was really happening in the slums, I realized how little I knew of my own kingdom. His chest heaves, though his voice is steady. So I listened, I learned, and for the first time in my life, I came to my own conclusions. So, call me crazed, like the rest of the kingdom, but I don't think you're insane. My quiet words cut through his own. I think you're right. If Ilya is in danger, then you are doing what you must to save it. Hell, I huff out a laugh. The ordinary should be welcomed back into this kingdom even if it wasn't needed to survive. Because I also learned quite a few things on my journey, like the lies we were told and who it was that spread them. Kit opens his mouth, but I push on. I'm not here to discuss politics or the elite kingdom Father built atop decades of deception. I brace my hands on the desk, leaning over the worn wood. I'm here to talk about her. He stands slowly to his feet, nearly leveling our gazes. Easy, brother. Marriage, Kit? I almost shout, shaking my head. What the hell were you thinking? I'm thinking, he says stiffly, that I don't have another option. You're the king! This time I do yell. You'll always have another option. Always have a way out, unlike the rest of us. Fine. You want another option? Challenge rings in his voice, smothering any sign of the composed king I returned home to. My way out is killing her. That is what I was going to do. How does that sound? Are you happy now? We stare at each other, chests heaving. Shock slackens my jaw. Terror tightens my chest. His words are nearly as paralyzing as the unspoken ones hanging in the air between us. Because what is worse than her dying is me being the one forced to kill her. If I don't marry her, Kit breathes, begging me to understand. I have no choice but to kill her. She murdered our father, Kai. But as my bride, she can help restore Ilya. He braces a hand on the desk, leaning in with each word. This is a mutually beneficial agreement. I would protect her, twist the truth about what happened between father and her. And in return, she would be my symbol of peace to the other kingdoms. I comb a hand through my hair. I'm not sure when I started pacing, but my feet now set a swift tempo up and down the worn rug. I laugh then, bitter and unable to stop the sound from bubbling out of me. Please help me understand, because when I left, you seemed plenty enraged and ready to have me plunge a sword through her chest. My steely gaze searches his. So what changed? Everything. He breathes, quiet enough to have me regretting my harsh words. Everything changed. I was a son mourning the man I thought I loved. I see now that it was obsession, because love was not an emotion Father taught me. But I was bitter, vengeful, unsteady without him here to guide me. He takes a shaky breath. I grieved. I learned. I came to my senses. And you're right. I'm not the crazed boy you left. I'm a king." His words hit me hard, like a blow to the chest that's stolen the air from my lungs. I swallow. What happened to the son who would do anything to please his father? Because this decision goes against everything he wanted for Ilya, even if you're saving it in the process. He takes a deep breath, avoiding my gaze. Father only cared about eradicating the ordinaries, not strengthening this kingdom. He hid under the elite society he created, and yet Ilya had never been weaker. I see now how small-minded he was. Kit finally meets my stare with a stern one of his own. And I want to make this kingdom truly great. I nod, slowly. Kit's zeal shines through each word, now no longer smothered by our father. It's admirable, his love for this kingdom and resolve to restore it. But pride swells in my chest, not for this king, but for the boy who dreamed only of approval. Now he wears father's crown and forsakes the infatuation tethered to it. I force a calming breath into my lungs. Thoughts of father are dangerous. They tend to lead me to her. Escaping from the darkest corner of my mind, broken words slide off my tongue, barely more than a whisper. Don't you hate her? To my surprise, he forces a smile. It's a sharp, small gesture he's willing to share with me. Do you? We eye each other, and for the first time since setting that crown atop his head, I think we might just understand each other. Because suddenly, I see myself in him again. Payton is not a right or wrong, not something as simple as a yes or a no. She is confusion itself, a feeling unplaced, a color between black and white. Hell, she is my silver savior, and hating her is not as simple as it may seem. But for me, it is not loving her that has proven to be difficult. I don't want this to come between us. Kit ventures cautiously. I want things to be as they once were. Us against every opposition. Brothers again. I open my mouth to tell him. The door swings open. I don't even need to turn around. The mere presence of her is familiar, branded into the hollow of my neck where her head rests, tethered to my ankle and forever tugging me towards her. Kit's gaze climbs over my shoulder before widening slightly in shock. I turn then, unable to keep my eyes from her any longer. And there she is. Her stance is somehow stern, expression unsurprisingly the same. Cropped hair dusts her jaw, tousled and wavy. Her father's leather journal is tucked beneath an arm, flush against the blouse clinging to her figure. Those blue eyes crash into mine like a wave, along with the sudden realization that I've been nearly deprived of drowning in them since our arrival to the castle. Only now do I have the privilege to drink her in. I watch her do the same, though the stoic expression she wears never slips. Pretend. She's far better at it than I am, though I would expect nothing less from the psychic before me. She has spent the entirety of her life practicing the art of pretending. Her eyes tear from mine to land on Kit. No need to catch me up to speed. I happen to hear it all. My brows rise with a skeptical sort of amusement. So, it's safe to assume that your ear was pressed to the door. Her eyes flick to mine before offering me a deceptively pleasant smile. Only until the two of you started shouting. Then the entirety of the hall was eavesdropping as well. With a heavy sigh, Kit lowers himself back into the seat beneath him. Peyton, I had every intention of speaking with you about all of this. Really? Her voice is sharp, cutting through his words like a blade. Before or after we are married? I stiffen, eyes sliding down her arm to the shimmering ring choking her finger. It's so casually been carried into this room, this conversation. The sight of that symbol here, now possibly forever, has my chest aching. Maybe I'm even jealous of the ring. Jealous of the way it clings to her skin, feels every shiver of her body, because that should be me. Before, of course. Kit's talking again, voice even. He avoids her gaze. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. Oh, I sure do. The words are little more than a laugh. Starting with the task you've assigned Lenny to. I lean against the desk, legs stretched atop the carpet and ankles crossed. My gaze finds Kit. And what task might this be? Kit opens his mouth, but it's Pay's voice I hear. He's been ordered to guard Bob of her throat. Blair's door, and likely every move she makes beyond it. Rage simmers in her eyes. And just like that, I understand what it is that fuels the fire burning within them. Adina. I'd watched that branch tear through every muscle and tendon in her chest, watched Peyton crumble in that sandy pit, cry over the bloody body, and scream when it shuddered its last breath. But behind that tragic scene stood the winner of the final trial. Blair guided that branch through Adina's chest with her mind and a smile. When my eyes slowly climb back to Peyton's, it's revenge that reflects in them. And I have a feeling that Blair's blood will be the only she enjoys in her hands. I have to keep the peace, Kit says slowly. Her father is a trusted general, and I can't have my future queen picking fights within the castle. I knew you would go after her, and I figured that placing Lenny between you two was the safest option. He runs a hand through his hair, tussling the blonde strands. I need you on your best behavior if this arrangement is going to work. And you want this to work? Peyton asks with a sudden calmness that's begun to creep over her. Our arrangement. The uniting of the ordinaries and elites. In order to save Ilya, yes. Kit clarifies. We must open trade again, and that is only possible if the surrounding kingdoms no longer despise us. I would elaborate further about our marriage, but it seems you already heard my reasonings through the other side of the door. Her silver hair swishes with a nod. I did gather most of the information I was looking for, except for the question you avoided. She steps forward, tossing the journal before us. Her fingers curl around the edge of the desk, nearly brushing mine. Do you not hate me? After everything I've done. Kit takes a long, trembling breath. My eyes flick between the two of them. Nothing more than a witness of this civil standoff. It's not about hating or loving you. It's about what is best. And I cannot rule a kingdom that has fallen. I killed your father, she replies bluntly. And you forgive me for that? You have yet to apologize. I was protecting myself from him, she whispers. I need you to know that. He came at me, and I barely made it out of that fight alive. Her voice trembles, but she pushes on, head high. I'm sorry that I killed your father, but I will never apologize for killing a tyrant. Silence smothers the room, so loud it's nearly deafening. I watch Kit's face for any sort of shift, and know that Pei is doing the same with that psychic-like observance of hers. But he doesn't so much as blink, perhaps even breathe. When he does speak, his words sound slightly choked. You don't need my forgiveness. You only need my protection. And now, Kit's voice grows callous, so opposite his tone towards me. I've given you purpose. Her knuckles grow white around the desk's edge. She blinks, her face a canvas of shock and hurt and muted understanding. But Kit has every right to harbor animosity towards the ordinary who killed his father. So Peyton simply nods in response to his earnestness. She pushes no further on the matter of forgiveness. Not now. What about everything else? The disease you were told us ordinaries possess? She reaches for the journal then, tearing through worn pages until the hasty handwriting is on display. My father was Adam Gray, a healer in the slums, and he recorded everything. I cross my arms over my chest. His journal entries state that father was bribing the healers, offering them their weight's worth in silvers if they backed the lie that ordinaries were slowly dwindling our powers. I blow out a breath. And as much as it pains me to admit it, everything written in that journal adds up. It's no wonder every healer lives lavishly in the higher kingdom. They have all the means and no desire to help those in the slums. When my gaze lands on Pei, she nods in silent gratitude before continuing. Every elite in this kingdom despises the ordinaries. Getting paid to spread lies about them was only a bonus for the healers. And the king, she adds almost awkwardly, took advantage of that hatred. He tried to buy my father's silence more than once. But he was one of the only healers who stayed in the slums, aware of the lies but unable to do anything about them. So we started the resistance. Kit sighs out, still avoiding Peyton's wide gaze. Callum has filled me in on all the details, as did the letter father left me. He looks as tired as he sounds when his fingers begin massaging the crease between his brows. I know of the lies healers have spread for decades. Peyton swallows. And are you going to tell the kingdom this? Yes. Though I'll spin the truth into something more appealing. I may have grown to despise my father in recent weeks, but that does not mean I wish to tarnish our family's name. He leans forward then, eyeing the ring on her hand that I can't bring myself to look at. I will protect the Azure legacy. But, his next words are reluctant, I will also protect you, Peyton. The kingdom will be told a variation of what really happened outside that arena between you and the king.
One thing I'm looking to improve this year is my prep before a run. So I asked ChatGPT to create a quick 5-minute pre-run session that I can quickly follow before hitting the road. Suffice to say, I can definitely feel the difference.
Well, yes, this is just a toothbrush, but it's also something you'll use 700 times this year and 60,000 times in your life. Make it count. Learn more at trysurrey.com.
There is an edge to his voice, a bitterness I don't recognize from him. And it doesn't seem to be directed at me. Shoving the thought aside, I nod down toward the desk drenched in parchment. What of the records in Callum? They convinced you to change Ilya. Turning to me, Kit's expression softens. It wasn't immediate. I had spoken to Callum several times, trying to glean information about the attack. Only he spoke mostly of why there was a resistance in the first place. I learned more about the slums and deprivation the kingdom, my kingdom, was heading towards. His gaze drifts to Peyton. Everything he said paired perfectly with what I had seen the day you snuck me from the castle. I know now how that was little more than a betrayal for the resistance. He nearly laughs then, but nevertheless, it helped open my eyes. Callum, mind reader that he is, knew I was beginning to see the truth. He counseled me, suggested I marry Peyton in order to save Ilya. I wasn't going to, not at first. The king looks up at me. But I visited the queen, your mother, and she told me of the letter father had left for me. It was a plan, she said, for the future Edric wished Ilya to have. Something each king passes down to the next. He pauses to clear his throat. It was only after reading it that I realized what needed to be done. Father didn't care about Ilya. He hated ordinaries. And the damning records of our dwindling food supply and overpopulation were proof of that. He failed to create an elite society, and now we must face the consequences. Each word rings with disgust and betrayal, and I'm glad of it. Finally, after all these years trying to please him, Kit sees our father for what he was. Peyton's expression reflects the king's, as though he spat out every bit of revulsion onto her face. His hopes for Ilya were crippling, simple-minded, and he wanted me to continue them for him. Kit shakes his head in reminiscence of a time when he would have done anything for our father. He was destroying this kingdom for a futile cause. It was greatness he craved, and instead, he accomplished mediocrity. My brows lift, as if floated up by the wave of shock flooding through me. This certainly is not the brother I left mere weeks prior. Something has changed, stemming from something else as seemingly insignificant as disappointment. So, Peyton ventures skeptically, you no longer want to obey your father's wishes? She asks this, knowing full well Kit's reputation. His whole life has been spent aiming to please a single man who he has now defied with a single decree. My gaze flicks to the king seated before us, watching words fall from lips tinged with a smile. Why obey a man when I can be a far greater one? I once thought father's plans for this kingdom were worth my unflinching loyalty, but now I see that they are not. It's difficult, trying to fight my smile. Kit has finally broken free from father's choking grip. You're doing this solely to save Ilya. It's not a question from the Silver Savior, but rather a disappointed declaration. Kit laces his fingers atop the desk. I do this to make us great. You don't care for a unified kingdom. Peyton counters. That is not why I'm doing this. The king's voice remains steady in the face of Pei's scrutiny. It is, for some, a positive outcome. Though I don't much care for the elite's powers dwindling due to repopulation with ordinaries. Mundanes already make up half of our numbers, but we will deal with that at a later time. I hold my breath as Peyton considers this for a moment. And when she leans over the desk, so do I. I have dreamed of a free, united Ilya all my life. And if this is the only way to achieve that, then so be it. Her voice grows hesitant. But it seems I have the rest of my life to change your perspective on ordinaries. Kit dips his head.
Domino's delivers hot and fresh in 25 minutes on average. Order now.
Everything has changed. And now, I too wish for all of us to be united. My heart bangs against my chest, beating for her, beating for every moment we may never get to spend together. And when words finally spill from her lips, she might as well have plunged a dagger into my back like she promised so long ago. Then I will marry you, Kit, to save this kingdom from itself.
Chapter 6. Payton. Remember to keep your back straight. Oh, and do try to look pleasant. I make a face behind the dressing curtain, fully aware that Ellie can't see it from where she stands on the other side. Pleasant? I can hear the hesitant smile in her voice. You know, maybe smile a bit. No scowling at court members. But that is so much more pleasant for me, I say wistfully. Because that is the truth, in more ways than one. It hurts less to scowl. There is no sharp, searing sensation that accompanies the downward turn of my lips. But a smile has quickly been associated with pain, leaving little joy to remain in the action. My fingers deftly trail the jagged scar running down the side of my neck, stopping only when it reaches my collarbone and the carving beneath it. Like Braille, the severed flesh tells a story. Each drag of the king's sword is traced along my skin, embedded into my very being. Are you all right back there? Ellie's voice grows closer. Here, let me help you. No, I order, the word harsh enough to shock even me. The command is met with a long, unbearable silence from the other side of the screen, until finally a soft, "Oh, okay," shyly meets my ears. I take a deep breath, already regretting my clipped command. But I won't let her see my marred skin, the O branded above my heart. That piece of myself has only ever been shared with Kai, and I intend to keep it that way. My fingers fiddle with the line of little buttons cascading down the dress's center. Mumbling under my breath, I finally manage to secure the last one. Only then, after ensuring that the square neckline thoroughly covers the branding of my weakness, I reveal myself to a fidgeting Ellie. Oh, it's lovely. She moves to step behind me, hesitating slightly. May I tighten this tie for you? I swallow, once again ashamed that I'd snapped at her. My apology takes the form of a slightly pained smile. Yes, of course. She makes quick work of the tie, stealing my breath with each tug. Do you think Adina would like this dress? Ellie's question makes me pause, and her sudden stillness tells me that she hadn't intended on asking it. But for the first time since her death, the sound of Adina's name doesn't feel like a twisted knife to the gut. No, I want to remember her like this. See her in the stitching of a dress or in the rays of the sun. Watch her shine through every second for as long as I remain breathing the air she no longer can. I glance at the mirror beside me, studying the planes of the dress. She'd like the color, I say softly. Ellie's relieved breath tickles the back of my neck. She would say that the deep blue brings out my eyes. But plague knows she'd ensure the skirt was... what would she say? I stare at the draping fabric until my eyes are crinkling with sudden recollection. Voluptuous, that's the word. Ellie giggles softly, stepping beside me to examine the dress fully. Yes, that does sound like her. I run my sweaty palms over the tight bodice, avoiding my own gaze in the mirror. Come, Ellie says softly. Let's make those blue eyes pop even more. She ushers me to the vanity, where I sit stiffly atop the cushioned bench. My lashes are soon lined with kohl, face powdered, and bruises concealed. She paints my lips a deep red, perhaps to match the blood forever coating my hands. My breath catches at the comparison my muddled mind has made. I keep my gaze lowered after the jarring thought, hiding from my own reflection in the mirror. Because I'm scared of what I'll see there. Will it be the broken girl staring back, or the traitor queen I'll soon become? Peyton? Mm-hmm. My gaze lifts to Ellie, finding her staring at me in question. Sorry, did you say something? She smiles comfortingly. Yes, I asked what you wanted me to do with your hair. Oh, just leave it. I nod distractedly. It will help cover my scar. Another sad smile. It's not the first she's given me. Right. Stepping away, she scans my face. You look... Ellie trails off, and that worries me greatly. What? If I look ridiculous, please tell me. No, not at all. Her gaze lingers over the length of me. You look... hardened, in a way. Those words don't surprise me, but her next ones do. In fact, you look like a queen. I spin my father's ring beneath the massive table, if only to distract myself from the foreign one now encircling a nearby finger. Shifting in my plush chair, I sneak a glance down the length of wood to find that nearly every gaze is already pinned on me. I lift my chin slightly before mustering a cool facade as my only defense against so many prying eyes. The colossal table sits in the center of the throne room, and even despite its impressive size, the court is thoroughly cramped around it. My gaze climbs from the expanse of dark wood until it lands on comfort, relief, him. Gray eyes flick between mine, soft in that way they only are when looking at me. That tether between us grows taut, heavy with the weight of so many unspoken words. But even the strongest of ties wears over time. It will be the slow death of us, spending every day alongside each other but never truly together. Kai's gaze tears from mine when the looming doors swing open. Every body clumped along the table's edge clambers to its feet when the king enters the room. Having spent my entire life learning how to blend in, I quickly stand alongside them. When my eyes lift to find Kit, it's his brother they find their way back to, a repetition of the past I can't seem to escape. His black tunic is cut close to the body beneath, inky like the ebony waves that fall over his brow. As if feeling my gaze, he pulls those strong arms behind his back and tosses me a quick wink. I dip my head, hiding the twitch of my lips. Then I tuck our moment into that quiet part of my mind, right alongside the others, just in case we never get the chance to share another. Kit strides to the head of the long table, where Kai flanks his right and I his left. It's only after the king lowers himself into his extravagant seat that the court follows, numbly sitting back into their own. Good afternoon, Kit greets warmly. I'd first like to thank you all for joining me in this meeting. I know there is much to discuss and even more to answer. The sheer kingliness he exudes is still jarring, in a mournful sort of way. I miss the carefree boy he was before a crown was pushed onto his head, before I pushed him to be like this. But his very life has led up to this moment, this ruling of a kingdom, and it suits him more than I could have imagined. Or perhaps it's my revived hope for Ilya that has me suddenly looking at him with respect rather than revulsion. Everything changed in that study, history unwritten, and loyalties reformed. Kit seems equally as unenthusiastic about our engagement, and I warily wonder about his feelings for me. How much does the king despise me for killing the father he once cared so dearly for? Our marriage will be nothing more than a political union, but if we are meant to spend the rest of our lives together, I hope to restore some semblance of the friendship we once had. That is, if he even wants it. To begin, I will first address the terrible misunderstandings we all believed to be true. Kit's gaze travels around the table. I hope then that the reasonings behind my decision will become clear. I take a deep breath, straightening my spine like Ellie suggested. But I don't, however, arrange my features into something that resembles pleasantry. Instead, I remain stern, feigning strength in the face of a kingdom so eager to cut me down. Decades ago, healers claimed to have found an undetectable disease hidden within the blood of ordinaries. Kit's voice carries, sounding so much like the king before him that I nearly flinch. With prolonged exposure, that disease was said to weaken the powers of elites. And since becoming your king, I have discovered this story to be a lie. Chaos erupts around the table. I sit silently within it, my heart pounding as Kit's liberating words hang in the air. I never thought I'd hear the truth from a king's lips. I lean in slightly, searching his face, but he doesn't meet my gaze, doesn't glance in my direction at all as he states, "Seeing that Ilia was such a weak kingdom before the plague, King Edric did what he believed was best, banished the ordinaries. He did this to preserve our elite strength, offering a story that the healers eagerly backed. You, the people, needed little convincing to rid our kingdom of those lacking power." Confused glances are thrown around the table, followed by hushed accusations. The king's voice cuts through them all. "My father strengthened our kingdom greatly in the past, and for that we should all be thankful. But now, he has unwittingly weakened us by cutting off our resources, leaving me to do what I must to save us." A long pause, a sinking in of words. "So we will welcome the ordinaries back to Ilia." My lips twitch into a smile. After decades of lies, us ordinaries deserve a far grander reveal, a proclamation across the kingdom. But this is the best apology an elite king will give, so I revel in it. Kit's words spark an eruption that ripples down the table. Men and women of all ages push to their feet, shouting incoherently as the world they once ruled now shifts beneath them. Kit raises a hand in a feeble attempt to regain control, but the chaos continues its destructive course, forcing me to dodge a flying elbow to my right. "If you wish to lose your tongue, by all means, continue speaking over your king." Kai's casual threat carries across the room, clamping shut even the most eager of mouths. With one final glance at the court, the enforcer gestures casually to his king, urging him to continue. Kit's green gaze brims with gratitude. He looks at Kai like he once had, like a brother. But the moment passes too quickly. Without warning, he's suddenly morphed back into a king addressing his court. "I know this is an adjustment. I was shocked to learn of my father's deceit, though it benefited us all. He was a harsh man who would happily kill for power, as do most kings. And after speaking with Callum, I realized that the resistance was simply a voice for those harmless ordinaries." He lets the words sink in before uttering more. "Banishing them, as my father once had, strengthened our city once. Allowing them back in now will do the same." My ears ring slightly as I release a shaky breath. I never thought this day would come. Never imagined living in a world where I no longer had to hide what I wasn't. Kit may only be allowing ordinaries back in Ilia to appease the surrounding kingdoms, but it is a start. A man shoves to his feet across the table, and my eyes fall to the pin of Ilia's crest that names him the court's spokesperson. His head of mint hair is next to draw my attention, followed by the words he utters evenly. "Even without a disease, they'll dwindle our power if we reproduce with them." Them. I hadn't realized my hands were curled into fists beneath the table until my nails threatened to draw blood. "Over time, maybe," Kit was saying. "For all we know, there may be benefits to mixing the blood of elites and ordinaries. But you will find that ordinaries willing to procreate with an elite are few and far between." Questions begin flying around the room, echoing off the many marble pillars framing it. "And what about her?" My head snaps towards the shouted accusation to find a bearded man pointing his thick finger at my face. "What about your heirs? Will you taint your royal line with the blood of an ordinary?" My stomach twists. lungs suddenly too tight beneath the constricting fabric of my dress. Kai jerks to his feet and nearly topples the chair behind him. I stand too, readying myself to step between my enforcer and the man testing his patience. Enough! It's the king who says this, diffusing Kai with the stern word. I will not have my judgment questioned, nor my future lineage. If the heir to my throne possesses less power, then so be it. That is a small price to pay for a thriving kingdom. His words should startle me more, but I've always known of Kit's love for Ilya. That alone is why he's willing to sacrifice power, not for the ordinaries, not for me. A woman stands on heeled shoes, her gown pristine. She is the perfect picture of offensive elite privilege. None of this changes the fact that she is a criminal, a king killer. I can't help my wince at the uproar that follows her words. Hands rise in objection, their voices doing the same. My gaze slowly climbs to Kit, awaiting what words he strings together. It's my life, or rather, my imminent death, that he now holds in the palm of his hand. A terrifying realization courses through me, heating my cheeks with the blood Kit likely wishes to spill. He must ache to grant these shouted requests for justice. After everything I did, he was going to kill me. That is, until I became useful to him. Kit's voice is even, eyes expertly avoiding mine. Peyton was defending herself. It's a simple, defiant explanation that no one will dare oppose. My father suffered a deep blow to the head during the chaos before stumbling into Peyton. Due to his injuries, he was confused and not all in his right mind. In his hazy state, he came after her, forcing Miss Grey to defend herself against him. Now I will hear nothing more on the matter. The scar above my heart sears, as if to remind me what truly happened that day. I will leave my mark upon your heart, lest you forget who's broken it. My eyes fall to the fisted hands in my lap. They shake slightly, rippling the blue fabric beneath. I can feel the imprint of the sword's hilt, remembering the exact amount of pressure used to drive the blade through Edric Azer's chest. Feel the flick of a dagger, the release of a bowstring, the plunging of a sword. Every death I've doled lives in the lines of these hands, and I fear who will find themselves beneath their next calloused touch. Flyers will be distributed throughout the city. I blink back to the present, Kit's words filling my muffled ears. They will announce our engagement to Ilya, but most importantly, to the surrounding cities. I will send messages to Dor and Tando while searching for a way to deliver the news to Isram. On these scrolls will be what we spoke of today, every reasoning and explanation. In 2 days' time, we will host a parade in celebration, and any remaining ordinaries within the kingdom, or anyone outside it for that matter, are to be welcomed. Mouths open in unison around the table, but the king is speaking before sound is able to escape them. That will be all. Thank you for your time. I can practically hear jaws snapping shut at the dismissal. Kit then stands, and after a moment of hesitation, extends a hand to me. My eyes slide to Kai, even as I slowly reach for his brother. But he doesn't look at me. No, the enforcer's gaze is on the palm I've placed atop the king's, growing darker with every second our skin grazes. As we stride from the room, hand in hand, I will Kai to meet my eyes and read the message within them. Pretend.
Domino's delivers hot and fresh in 25 minutes on average. Order now.
Domino!
Chapter 7. Peyton. She sleeps soundly to my right, just as she always does. Shoulder to shoulder, fabric to face, gaze to stars. Rough beneath my back lies the rug, piled with scraps of cloth that tickle my skin. The night is a comfort, combing cool fingers through my hair, tucking me in beneath a blanket of stars. They glint above while winking lazily down on the familiar pair of us. This is home, however unconventional, however broken its inhabitants. The bleak thought startles me into a sitting position, because I am the only bleak thing occupying this fort. Adina is whole and bright and unbelievably unblemished. I turn to face her, my eyes heavy with the haze of sleep. Raising a sluggish hand, I brush aside the uneven bangs curling atop her brow. When my fingers meet her skin, I pull back sharply at the frigid feel of it. She feels like death itself. No, that can't be right. Adina is the most alive person I know. She could never feel like anything less. Hesitantly, I reach for her again. My finger traces the curve of her cold cheekbone, right beneath the crescent of dark lashes fanning over her skin. The moon casts a sickly sheen over her once glowing skin. No, not the moon. It's death's shadow she wears. Eyes widening, I lean over her fully. My mind grows foggy, focused wholly on the familiar figure who, at the moment, looks nothing like the girl I know. My palm finds her cheek, patting lightly at her icy skin. Nothing. I shake her unmoving shoulders. A pleading whisper trips off my tongue. Adina, wake up. I need you. Then I shout at her death-drenched form to live. I might have even screamed. Hey, please! A dull thud meets my ears, sounding equally near and far. My head swivels in search of the ominous repetition. I scan the darkened alley, squinting into the shifting shadows. Another thud, this one louder than the last. The sound is crisp, clear enough to have me frantically whipping my head in every direction as I search for the source. And when I finally glimpse the gruesome picture that accompanies it, a strangled gasp claws up my throat, tearing through the shuddering silence. There's a bloody branch skewering Adina's chest. I bite back a scream, my lungs too tight. Blood blooms beneath the lavender shirt, staining her favorite color with dwindling life. I watch in horror as the branch lifts, as though being guided by some invisible hand, and begins a sickening plunge back into her chest. It sinks deep enough to pound against the hard carpet beneath, resulting in that horrific thud. I scream again. Scream each time that branch lifts and lowers, over and over again. I claw at it, fighting against every sickening beat. Rough bark bites into my palm, springing sticky blood from the torn skin. I tug at the branch, and still it relentlessly sinks into her chest. My hands shake, tears stream. Thud, thud, thud. It pierces through her, stopping only when it meets the rug, but still it does not halt from my screams or pleading whimpers. She's gone. She's gone. She's... My eyes fly open, only to be greeted by shadow. A figure looms over me, and I don't hesitate before slipping my hand beneath the pillow to find the knife I'd snatched from my dinner tray. Not my first weapon of choice, but it's probably sharp enough to provide a painful end to whoever it is that... Pay. His voice calms the sea of panic beginning to swell in my chest. A calloused hand catches the wrist I've raised towards his throat, halting the swift arc of my borrowed blade. Easy, Kai breathes, body tense as it leans over mine. Eyes adjusting to the dim light, I can just make out his fuzzy figure at the edge of my bed. I'm nearly teetering off it, skin sticky and chest heaving. His body shifts closer, one hand cupped around my lifted wrist, while the other is braced beside my head, sinking into the plush pillow. It was just a nightmare, he whispers, slowly lowering our joint hands until the blade tumbles onto the mattress. You're okay. I'm right here. A nightmare is an understatement. That was torture. I blink up at the face I cannot see, and yet I picture it all the same. How How did you get in here? His fingers graze my forehead, sweeping away the sticky strands of hair there. I heard you scream, and nothing has terrified me more. I hear him swallow, feel a swipe of his thumb across my cheekbone. And it didn't stop. You just kept screaming, so... A pause. We both know it will take more than a locked door to keep me from you. My eyes travel over his shadowed shoulder to find a gaping hole where my door once stood. Now it decorates the floor, having ungracefully toppled to the ground. The thudding in my dream. That was real. That was this. He had kicked the damn door down. Can I get no privacy around here? I joke weakly, voice still shaky with the remnants of my nightmare. Privacy? His chuckle skitters up my spine, awakening my sleepy senses. Darling, I'd be in this bed beside you if my brother hadn't slipped a ring onto your finger. His mouth hovers dangerously close to my own, especially so considering the distraction I'm seeking, and every inch of him will most definitely do the trick. I want him desperately, recklessly, and the embodiment of those feelings falls from my lips in the form of a single traitorous sentence. So, slip it off. I feel his head shake above me, feel his nose rub against mine. He groans softly in a way that tells me he's restraining himself from happily obeying my command. The rough fingers that aren't currently cupping my jaw find their way to the band around my finger. I could, he murmurs. So easily I could. His thumb slides over my knuckles. The problem wouldn't be taking that ring off. It would be getting me to put it back on. I shut my eyes, as though that could hide me from his words, from the reminder of my fate. I am betrothed to the king, and yet my heart beats for his brother. I know, I whisper, unable to muster anything more. Several long, silent moments slip between us. His thumb brushes idle circles across the top of my hand, a delicate comfort, and yet I might crumble beneath the feel of it. Then his touch shifts to stroke the short strands of hair behind my ear. I feel his following murmur on my skin, hear the smirk hidden between each syllable. A butter knife? Really? It's all I have at the moment, I grumble. Well, that just won't do, he flicks my nose lightly. What if someone had broken into your rooms? I can't help the laugh that bubbles out of me. It seems someone already has. But don't worry, Prince. My fingers fiddle with a lock of inky hair falling over his forehead. I can do plenty of damage with a shoe. Oh, I'm well aware. His words are a whisper against my lips. You are devastating, Pei. And then he's scooping me into his arms. I squeal in surprise, having been swept from the mattress. Blankets slide off my skin, slipping away from the silky sleepwear Ellie had set out for me. A strong hand cups the back of my knees, while the other is wrapped around my bare shoulders. The heat of his body seeps through my thin pants and accompanying tank as I sling a steadying arm around his neck. What? He turns, causing me to pause my accusation as he casually steps across the fallen door. What are you doing? Stealing you away, he says simply. I open my mouth to protest, but his whispered words against my ear have me falling silent. Tonight, we pretend. Branches drag along the ground, encircling us in a leafy embrace. Kai's hand is firm around mine as he guides me beneath the weepy underside of the willow tree. Moonlight streams through thin branches, dappling the ground with slivers of silver light. At the center of it all lies a looming trunk, its roots clinging to the earth and rippling through the soft grass. My palm slips from Kai's when he suddenly sinks to the ground, sprawling atop it with a sigh. He doesn't offer an explanation before sitting up and planting firm hands on my hips. I'm being pulled towards the grass before even getting the chance to protest. Tangled in his arms, my body topples over him ungracefully. He embraces my clumsy descent, happily wrapping his arms tighter around me even after I've knocked the air from his lungs. I laugh, shoulders shaking from where I lie crookedly across his chest. At the rare sound, his calloused fingers tighten atop the thin fabric of my tank, catching on the silk. My head leans against his. This is most definitely not allowed. He hums in question, the sound vibrating against my back. Us being out here, alone, in the dead of night. It could be worse, he murmurs. We could have stayed in the Queen's quarters, alone and in the dead of night. My cheeks flush. On second thought, I much prefer the night air. He chuckles beside my ear, forcing me to suppress a shiver. My fingers find one of the hands he's sprawled across my stomach, feeling the rough skin splattered with scars. It's only when I brush over his knuckles that I steal in his hold. That's why you heard me scream. I turn my face towards him, voice soft. You were up training. His skin is scabbed over, knuckles hardened with the remnants of blood. The sad smile he wears shines through his voice. Nothing gets past you, little psychic. I was heading to my room after being out in the training yard most of the night. Couldn't sleep. He adds, the clarification an afterthought. That's when I heard you. I nod slowly, gathering my courage. I was dreaming about her. I feel his chest halt beneath me. He knows exactly who it is I'm referring to. I'm guessing it wasn't a pleasant dream. No, I almost laugh. It started that way, which somehow made it all so much worse. His voice is rough. I'm sorry you're forced to relive that moment every time you shut your eyes. Not every time. I shift, slipping off his chest to sit beside him. Not when I'm with you. He props himself up on an elbow, tugging at my tank until I'm leaning down towards him. Then I'll never leave your side. I give him a look. Don't make promises you can't keep. It's not promises I care to keep. It's you. His words never fail to have my stomach flipping, heart fluttering, lips falling silent. So I flick the tip of his nose with a soft, "You're quite the poet, Prince." Moonlight pools in the dimple that accompanies his grin. And you the muse, darling. My silk-clad knees sink into the dew-kissed grass, growing damper by the second. Is this going to be our lives? I whisper suddenly, avoiding his gaze. Forever pretending, sneaking away from reality to steal a few moments together? Forever pretending, sneaking away from reality to steal a few moments together? You know, he sighs, I pictured a different forever for us. One that took place far from here. But if this is all we get... He pauses, eyes as silver as the moonbeams pouring down on us. Then we'll make the most of it. I will be your enforcer, your rival, your secret waiting beneath the willow. Mention of the tree cocooning us has my gaze wandering down to its large base and the lapping grass there. His sister is buried beneath this patch of earth, her body cradled by twining roots. My voice is oddly hushed. Is it okay that I'm here? Under her willow? I'm sure Ava won't mind the company. His smile is bright against the darkness, unexpected within this moment. Besides, this isn't your first time here. I did nearly undress you beneath these very branches during the second ball. Memory of the seizing panic that night comes flooding back, along with the unforgettable feel of his fingers undoing the laces of my dress. Oh yes, I remember. Fondly, I hope. I scoff lightly before leaning closer. I also recall the game we played under this tree, and how I beat you at it. He's shaking his head at me. Now that is a fond memory. First, he starts coolly, the game was a thumb war. Second, you're full of shit, Silver Savior. My mouth opens, appalled by his accusation. But it's a gasping giggle that escapes when he sits up suddenly to tug me closer by the waist. I'm pulled onto his lap within the next thundering beat of my heart. He wraps my legs behind his back, leaving me fully perched atop his crossed ones. Fine, I smile. Rematch. Oh, my pretty Pay. His words are a murmur against my lips. For once, it is I who will be your undoing. And in this moment, I would beg him to be just that. Would give anything to live out the rest of my days under this willow and in his arms. So, I memorize every shadow of his face, every shade of this vivid fantasy before me. He kisses the pad of my thumb before the war begins.